Welcome to another episode of the podcast series Rare. In this episode, myself and Mary Andles will be chatting to our friend and one of our lovely team members, Jay Roach, and his wife, Sarah. So, Mary Andles, this is slightly different for us.
Yes.
Because we have Jay, who we know. I think you go back further with Jay than I do.
Yeah.
And his lovely partner Sarah.
Yeah.
So what are you looking forward to the most for this one?
I'm really looking forward to hear some stories about Sarah and the experience of living with a family with Huntington's disease and how is this impacting her identity, her choices in life, her future, and the way she's been part of this family. And I'm very curious about that. That would be something I'm very interested in.
Yeah, and I definitely am, and I'm also really interested in their connection. We always talk about that. Obviously, they've got a connection to the genetics department, and how that developed, and how they've ended up here with us in this room having a conversation. And whether they've always been on the same page about that journey, or whether it's slightly changed at times. I think it'd be really great, and it's also quite interesting that we've not got. It's a family.
Yes, we don't have professionals.
We don't have professionals. Yeah,
that's so relaxed.
It's so relaxed that we don't have to worry about how we pronounce things.
And names or anything, or professions or anything.
Yeah, or make sure we can be a bit more naughty, I think.
Let's go and listen.
Yeah. Welcome to Jay and Sarah. And this is quite unique for us so far, because we've not actually invited a family, members of the same family, to come and have a conversation with us. So we're quite excited to have you here, and hopefully it'll be quite a different type of conversation, which is what we're looking forward to.
Mm-hmm. I think for me it's kind of interesting how rare is become a topic, and it's something I'd never even really thought about before, and it's only through the conversations that we've all been having that it's kind of become a thing, and almost like a little badge to wear, so to speak. literally a badge to wear, as we're wearing them today.
You mentioned that the sixth floor, you feel quite kind of connected to the genetics department, and you felt like you wanted to give back or do as much as you can. So where did that journey start?
Can I say something? When I met Jay, when can I say that, Jay?
Yeah.
When we did a group intervention in the genetics. You heard about that, Sarah?
Yeah, it was quite a few years ago.
And when you came 24 years ago, was that the first time either of you had been to the genetics department? Did you come together?
Yeah, we did. We came together. We came because it was that massive panic. I shouldn't laugh, really. It was a massive panic because we discovered we were pregnant even though we'd been married for several years, and we weren't thinking of starting a family. And I think we'd kind of talked around the subject of starting a family, but then obviously knowing of the history of Jay's family, we weren't in a rush to start a family. So then when we actually found out we were pregnant, it was suddenly like, what happens now? Are we ready for this? What happens now? So that's what triggered us, isn't it? We went to see our doctor, and our doctor suggested that we came to the genetics department, and they were really, really helpful at the time, actually.
I am very interested in this conversation, probably the thing that I'm most interested in, how it is for you, Sarah, to enter, or what is the story to enter in a family where Huntington is present, and I don't know when you discovered that and how.
On the first opening, is this okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know, as long as Jay doesn't mind me.
No, it's fine.
We met very young, and obviously we lived far apart because I'm not from Manchester, I'm from Cornwall.
I recognise that accent. Yeah, it's lovely because I love Cornwall.
So met on holiday. Jay was on holiday, and he managed to get me to come to Manchester.
Is this a big thing?
It's funny, we were talking about how we met today, actually. So the girls at work. So I came to Manchester. I was quite young, 18 when I moved up, and we just got engaged, and we hadn't really had a conversation about your grandparents and things, had we?
No.
Other than I knew we had grandparents. And obviously to Jay, how his grandparents were is normal to Jay because he's grown up with them. And, you know, we found it, you know, we both had 3 grandparents at the time and things like this. So he'd met my grandparents and that was fine. So I didn't meet his grandparents until I'd actually moved to Manchester. So I went to visit his grandparents, his dad's mum and dad, and he hadn't said anything to me. And I don't think it's because Jay didn't want to say anything to me. It was more the case that to him, it was normal. His grandparents were his grandparents, and that's exactly how they were. Yeah. So luckily for me, I suppose, I say lucky, maybe it's not anything to do with luck, but my mum's from a nursing background.
Right. Okay.
So I was used to hospitals and seeing people in beds and that sort of thing. It was never a massive shock, you know, to see that kind of environment. But we went to visit his grandparents, but I suppose I'd assumed that they would be like my grandparents were. And so when I got there, it was a bit of a shock. Not that it didn't upset me or anything like that, but I was just shocked at the time to see his grandma in a bed. And I wasn't expecting it. So when we left, I sort of said, what's wrong with your grandma? And then obviously that's when he told me. But I think the thing is previously, I hope not so much with us, but with the previous generation, his mum and dad's generation, and your dad in particular at that time, didn't really talk about it.
Of course. Yes.
So it was
different then, wasn't it?
It was different. It wasn't particularly talked about. You know, not necessarily Huntington's. I think any kind of illness.
I think anything genetic.
Exactly.
And it becomes a little bit sometimes in families a bit like an old wives' tale as well, doesn't it? You know, my parents both have achondroplasia, and when my mum was born, my nan was like, you know, there was like this kind of old wives' tale that maybe, you know, she belonged to somebody else, and maybe my nan had, you know, had an affair, you know, like, because they didn't understand that how these genetic and then it's because maybe our cousin years ago was small as well, and that kind of, and I think people start to create that narrative, don't they, around something because they don't want to talk about it openly of that generation.
Exactly.
This is an interesting question. What is normal? Does normality really exist?
My husband, his brother had a new girlfriend, and they were coming over from Denmark to see us, and he hadn't told his girlfriend that we both had achondroplasia. And just as they were getting off the plane, he went, just to let you know, he said, my brother and his girlfriend have got achondroplasia, which means they've got dwarfism, which means they're small. And she was just like, I'm just about to meet them. And I've got you should have any time digestive, but I forgot to say, just
by the way,
you didn't think about it.
It's normal. It's your normal, and that's what it was for Jay. It's normal, so he didn't even think to say to me, by the way, when we go in there, my grandparents aren't like yours. My gran's going to be in the bed and my granddad's, to all intents and purposes, normal. But do you know what I mean? I mean, I don't know that granddad
He wasn't quite normal, but
so you know what I mean. So it didn't really crop up, did it?
And I think it was. I mean, thinking back to then though, it was just a natural thing because it wasn't necessarily talked about within our family. It was just a thing that had happened. And instead of actually going around and being a subject that we talked about or whatever.
And it's kind of like seeing it now sort of almost repeating itself with our children. You know, obviously with their granddad now. You know, they don't really, they just talk about granddad. You know, it's not one granddad's like this or one granddad's like that. It's, do you know what I mean? There's no comparison made. They just know granddad's not well, and they're quite excited. Actually, they are a little bit sad, I'd say, about it, because especially because they're old enough to remember him being well. So it's like our eldest one, I had a conversation with him the other day. Obviously I mentioned before he didn't come to when we were in Manchester that time, and I did say to him, I think you need to go and visit Grandad a little bit more often, you know, you're a big lad now and you should go. And he actually did say to me, well, it is Mum a bit upsetting for me to go. But he could say that to me, which was really good, and I said, I get that, I appreciate that. I said, I know you're feeling like that, but you've also got to think about how Grandad feels. You know, because I know it's hard for you to see Grandad like that, because he did do a lot of childcare for us when he was well, And so they just remember this really fun granddad that really, and he really played with them.
We are having a conversation with Sarah and Jay about the relationship that the family has with Huntingtons.
But even our youngest, who's not so young anymore,
14,
but even she was sort of saying, I loved it when me and Grandad went on picnics, and there is that, they've seen that change.
But they are able to remember.
And they, it is lovely. They've got such fond memories already now, and obviously they're continuing to make those memories.
I mean, my dad was really, really active, wasn't he? In everything that he did. So he was
he was fun with them as well.
He was
sort of
silly
and
fun. He was the fun granddad. He was he'd be the one who he would take them on picnics and go out and
but he'd like literally on the floor playing with them, making things out of cardboard, and do you know what I mean? You'd come home and literally there'd be a den built in the middle of the living room, and Grandad would be in the middle of it, and do you know what I mean? So he was really, really fun.
Do you think he was conscious of that time that might not last forever?
I don't know, because he was a really fun dad.
He was always like that,
dad, wasn't he? Yeah.
We had. I've been dying to tell this.
Go on.
My dad's such a legend at hide and seek, right? That one day, my mum came home and me and our kid were looking for my dad, and he was hiding in a suitcase. He climbed into a suitcase at the top of a wardrobe.
And how long had he been there?
And he'd been like there for about an hour, and me and our kid were like looking, running around, and that just typifies exactly what he was like, and he was he was just like that with all the kids.
With the children when they were little.
Can I ask you, because you were saying, like, for you it was normal when you arrived to Jay's family. That was normal, and you were saying this is normal. But in a way, I'm sure that it's not that normal for all families to kind of, even you didn't talk about this, because in those days you didn't talk. You could have been resentful, or you could have been these many ways of being around the subject, if you want. Yeah. And how do you think it was in your family? Because it feels like, from what you're explaining, you were all together, and that didn't get in the way of your relationship with each other.
It's not ever going narrow, is it? Really?
I think if anything, it's kind of like, and maybe it is part of a generational thing, is that because it wasn't necessarily talked about as much when we were growing up, or when we were kind of the ages that our kids are now, that we've almost like, I don't know if we've purposely gone the opposite way, but we've always been a bit more.
Yeah, that's like whenever we come to visit the genetics department, we always say to the children that we're coming.
Yes.
We always ask them if they'd like to come too. Okay. We always tell them what happens when we go back, any news we've got to give them and things like that. So we always tell them, and we're always consciously sort of saying, we're not like, it's not like a daily thing. But do you know what I mean? Every now and whenever it kind of crops up though, we reassure them that there's help there if they need help, and they don't have to talk to us if they don't. If they want to go and talk to someone else, they can go and talk to somebody else, and it's always kind of, options are always there. But really, I don't think we kind of had that same kind of, we didn't feel that there was those same kind of options for us until it was that moment when we realised that we were going to have our first baby, and then we were suddenly like, right, I think we decided as a couple that we needed to know more.
Start to think about,
because sensibly,
that's what happens,
if this is being passed on, we need to arm ourselves with as much information as we possibly could. So that's why we decided to come at the time. But really, your mum and dad didn't kind of see it, I don't think, because they were a bit surprised, I think, that we were coming, weren't they? They were like, why do you need to... Why do you need to know? Do you know that? And like I said, I think it's just a bit of a generational thing, because they're going off of what their parents did, I suppose. And like I said, because I come from a very small, tight family. There's literally 5 of us.
And I think when you start a family, and I had a similar situation that we didn't necessarily plan, and then something happened, and then we went up to the 6th floor, and then you realise that's when you do need to know a bit of information, maybe, just so that you've got some answers or some signposts, or if you need that for the next generation.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean you're talking about it every day.
Exactly.
I became a little bit obsessed by talking about it to my youngest daughter, who doesn't have achondroplasia. And I go, and you know, mummy's going to be small. You're not going to be small like mummy. You're going to be big. And she was about 4. We were walking to nursery again, and she went, "Oh, I know, you've told me like 1,000 times." She said, "I'm going to be big, you're going to be small. I get it. Can we just get on with it?" You know, and it kind of really taught me that I was probably just going a bit too much with her. But and they set that pace, don't they? I think, as the children, about when they want to talk about, when they don't want to talk about it.
And I think the thing is, we've never, I don't think we've ever kind of consciously had a plan as to what we were going to do, or because we're not that kind of parents either. It's not a case of we need to sit down, we need to talk about it or anything like that. But I think it's like, say, it's almost like having, if you've got the knowledge, the information, and all the stuff to hand, then you can draw on it to. And
are the children, are they thinking about it still in terms of their grandfather and then Jay, or are they kind of got a good sense that it's kind of about them as well?
I think they do realise it's about them as well, but I think they also realise that the onset, especially in Jay's family, is later.
It's much later.
It doesn't kind of hit until midlife. So I think they're quite happy at the moment that Grandad has a diagnosis. So they know that Jay has the gene, the Huntington's gene, and they know that they could get, and they know what their percentage chance are of them getting the gene and things like that. But I don't think the children at the moment are that concerned about it. You know, their focus is Grandad's ill, and we were spending time with him. And you know, but then again, I think also we've always been very conscious of not making it a big deal, also in the fact that Granddad's got Huntington's and all that. It's always been spoken alongside other things.
Beyond the family, how is this experience of Huntington for your children and for you, really? Has this been beyond the family and the genetic department? Is it present somewhere, or you're living your life a bit different because of that, or
I think we made.
Or you imagine.
I'm not.
I have. I think I've done things differently. I changed my career because of it.
Oh. Tell us a little bit when you decided that.
Well, it was after we had Mabon, and you had the diagnosis of the fact that you had the gene, and I kind of thought, well, you know, we were still young. Well, in our, I say, like it was ages ago, but
you're still young.
We were in our 30s then, and Mabon was quite young. Wasn't she about 12 months old, I think? Yeah. And I kind of thought, well, if the illness follows the line the path it has been doing with Jay's granddad, and then obviously on to Jay, then I knew that by the time Jay got into his 50s, he wouldn't necessarily be able to work.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm quite a practical person.
That's very practical, isn't it? That's quite a practical approach.
I was like, well, I need to do, because Jay has always had a good career. You've been able to always do what you've wanted to do, haven't you? And when the children were young, I took a lot of that pressure off for Jay by allowing him to, not allowing him, but gave him permission. I quite like that. Allowing him to go off and do what he wanted. But and he had his businesses, and he's done lots of different things. And I think I also personally, though, for me, kind of outside of the Huntington's thing as well, thought, okay, it's a bit of time for me now as well. And so after having the children, and then I worked in school. I'd been working in school since we had our Keenan, our second one, and I thought, I could do this. This, you know, at the time I worked in the office. I'd done accounts and things for years, and I thought I could be a teacher, I could do that, it looks easy. So then I went back to university, and when the kids were really young, and did my PGCE, and then thought, well, this is great, because it's something, because it wasn't a case of, I wasn't maybe that flippant about it, but I realised that it was something that I could dip in and out of once I was qualified. It's not the sort of, you're lucky in that kind of sense for that career, that you can take breaks from it, you can go back and that sort of thing. So I thought, when the time comes, if I need to take it, I could just go on supply, and I can still earn a bit of money and those sort of things. So I think that it was a bit of a driving force to change from what I was doing at the time, and to sort of think a bit more about where I would go.
Your family comms of Huntington's to friends and other members of the family.
What do you mean comms?
Like how you communicate a diagnosis but also what bits you want to tell people, what bits you don't want, how you want to kind of package it almost, because I know that I've been there, there's only certain people that you want to tell some things to, and
I totally
and
agree
you're
with
also
that.
very aware that their reaction might not be, so you're almost managing their reaction sometimes beforehand, and I just wondered how that had been for you both.
I think for me it's kind of because I just get on with it. Literally the way I've kind of approached it is I've been quite not planned it in this way, but I just want to carry on almost like as if it's not there, because obviously I know it's full well it's there, but it's not to let it affect me
on a day-to-day basis
by sending me off on a different direction, and that's why I've carried on doing what I do.
Tell us a bit more about the group in terms of like what the group is and how that's how you guys connect.
Well, those are groups that we've been doing in the 6th floor with the genetic counselor Rona, was in our group here. Initiated those groups, and I think you were in the 2nd group that we did. And so we invited people who had one genetic condition. We keep doing that.
Just so the same genetic condition to the same group.
Well, some groups have been mixed, but most of them they are with some the same genetic condition. And in this case, it was a mixed group in the sense that some people knew about their results some people didn't know, some people they just knew. I don't know whether there were some partners in your group that the company.
There was some partners that came into our group as well.
To a company. And then we call it a narrative group. We tell stories. We share with them certain structure, and it's about sharing stories. I don't know. What would you say?
I think for me the most interesting thing, the reason I took
I was going to ask why did you kind of go, I'm going to go to that, that's something I'm going to do,
I think kind of comes back to, anything I can do that can help other people is, I see as a good thing, whether that's taking part in trials, medical trials or whatever, or, sort of having conversations like this, which, can help people who listen to it. So when I was asked, would I take part in a pilot, it was like, yeah, of course, I'll come along. And I actually came not really thinking about what the group would be. It didn't really sort of come with any preconceptions in that sense. And I knew it was just going to be a group session, and it was a sort of pilot trial that to sort of see if it was something that would work. And it wasn't until kind of after the session that I kind of realised actually how positive it made me feel. It wasn't that I actually felt negative in any way to begin with. But it was just that it wasn't that I needed counselling at that particular time, but the fact that actually that kind of shared experience was a good thing, and actually everyone should have a bit of a good thing.
I remember when you came back from it, you sort of very much felt it put things in perspective for you a lot.
I also feel very lucky because I don't tend to hear a feedback of the groups that we do through the person, through the partner of the person who's been So it's really nice to imagine that putting people together in a group and sharing stories can be significant.
Such a positive.
And also that you still remember that.
Yeah.
So it's,
I really remember it really clearly.
I clearly recognise that people treat it in different ways, or approach it in different ways, or handle it in with other people in different ways. I'm quite laid back, relaxed. It really is.
But your friends are quite like you in the sense that, like, when you told your two best friends at the time, like 15 odd years ago, they were just like, all right, mate, okay, we got your back. Yeah. It's all right.
We hope you are enjoying the podcast so far. Please subscribe, rate and review. Continue to follow our conversations where we discover that rare means different things to different people.
It's that, isn't it? It's like, I'm here to help other people because I'm okay with my situation. Yeah. Yeah. So I often go to those groups with that slight kind of arrogance, I'm going to say. I'm not calling you arrogant, but that kind of like, I'm here and I'm going to help everybody. And actually then I get them and go, actually, this is also kind of helping me. Yeah. And it might be in a surprising way and not how I expected, but it is. Yeah. And I think that's why groups are so important, because they put you in to that,
we learn from each other. So in any position in the world, nobody can say that they just give they just because we all get constantly being feedback with other people's stories and experiences.
I think it's the swapping of stories. For me, you're always learning. You're always like and I think no matter what you do, you always find something different in every single thing that you end up doing.
Yes,
it's kind of.
So we've been talking about Huntington's a lot, but we are called rare.
Yeah.
So we would like to know what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about rare. Anything.
Oh God.
Jay's had a lot more time to prepare for this because he knew it was coming.
No. I've purposely not been thinking about it.
Different. What kind of a different are you thinking?
If something's rare, but I don't know, lots of things come to mind. It's like precious things can be rare.
For instance,
lots diamonds and precious stones and things, they're rare. Beef.
We never had this answer.
That's coming from a farming background. But if things are rare, I'd probably go more of precious things. Rare moments, rare, things that become precious. Go on.
That's really weird because obviously I've been knowing that we're going to be asking this question at some point, and the word different was the thing that I've just had in my head all along.
All that time.
But it's good.
I think for me, it's maybe not different from a meat perspective. More well done than rare, but I think different, but almost like special, and I think it's unique, but also I don't know. I mean, it's things like. I was thinking how I would answer this, and I didn't really want to try and think of what I was going to say, but it's things like, little things about me, like, my eclectic musical taste and the fact that I'm probably the only Chas and Dave fan that you know. But I'm not just into Chas and Dave, by the way. but it's that little random stuff that kind of makes me different, and it is the difference. It always comes back to the word different, but in a good, positive way rather than...
Special way.
Yeah.
Special.
Wow, that was a really interesting conversation.
It was, and it just felt really relaxed and interactive, and it was really great to speak to both Jay and Sarah. And I think it must have been difficult for Jay at times because he knows us a little bit more and he doesn't know how much we know or how much we don't know. But actually, it was great because I think we got some really good bits that perhaps Jay hadn't talked about before or thought about and the same for Sarah, so it felt that we were delving in a little bit.
I'm wondering, what do they talk when they finish the conversation, what they've been talking now going back home or something.
I always think that, like, have we kind of like initiated another beef. We initiated a conversation around beef for everyone. But no, it was really nice actually, and really so many parallels with all of our lives. I think we all make decisions about how we're going to parent and how we're going to be as a family and our identity, and this is
and the choices we make in life.
I think it's really
It's been really nice.
We did carry on the conversation on the way home and over the following days. You've been hearing about our story. We'd love to hear your story about HD and how the people around you impact on your life. Find out more on the website or find us on the social with the hashtags RareDHD and RareDConversations.
This podcast has been made possible by our brilliant team.
Rona McLeod,
Ramona Moldovan,
Jay Roach,
Maria Angels Ferrer,
Nicola Garda,
Fiona Ulf,
Nick Jordan.